Hello and welcome to Sportsmole's Reader Awards for the 2016-17 season. We're here to talk through the worst signing of the season. The nominees in this category are Musa, Alvaro Arbeloa, Borja Baston, Claudio Bravo, Jordan Ibe, Lucas Perez, Moussa Sissoko, Ross McCormack, Simone Zaza and Vincent Janssen. Anyone stand out for you there, Matt?
There's a lot of players that have struggled in there, isn't there? A lot of good players as well that came in for decent money. I think start at the top, Musa was an interesting one. I remember when Arsenal were after him, they were linked with him coming from CSKA Moscow, and 21 games, 2 goals. Never really, he wasn't cheap either. 16.6 million, that type of money. Talk about players that come with big price tag. He's obviously one. Jordan Ibe's another one coming from, I think it was a record, wasn't it? Bournemouth transfer record they broke to bring him in from Liverpool. 25 games, no goals, no assists. Didn't really contribute anything. And some interesting ones. And then the other end of the spectrum, you got players that played plenty of games, players that didn't play plenty of games. Alvaro Arbeloa coming from Real Madrid, won the Champions League. Experienced, obviously been at Liverpool, knows the Premier League at the back of his hand. 3 games. And even when Liverpool was West Ham was struggling at that position, Sam Byram didn't really impress, did he? They were struggling. He still couldn't get in the team. He's had injury problems, and certainly some interesting ones in there. And this is going to be an interesting category. Bravo as well, which I think you might talk about in that. He played plenty of games but struggled as well.
I think there's a lot of players there you would have expected to do better, like Arbeloa. You mentioned he has the experience. He's played for some of the biggest clubs in the world. He's won some of the biggest trophies in the world. For him not to be able to get into the West Ham team is very strange. Musa, Leicester obviously going on that recruitment drive for the Champions League campaign after winning the title. Likes of him and Slimani came in. But Musa more so than Slimani could barely even get into the team. Jordan Ibe, 15 million from Liverpool. He was deemed the next big thing at Liverpool, and there was quite a bit of upset among the fans that we'd let him go because he was such a promising young player. He's got criticised by Eddie Howe during the season, so he's had a poor season. For me, the one that stands out, you mentioned Claudio Bravo there. He's, I think it's been a difficult first season for him. The Premier League is obviously completely different to La Liga, especially playing for a team like Man City, who teams think they can get at. They're going to launch balls into the box there, rather than Barcelona, where they're on top. They got 60-80% possession every single game between those two figures. So he's not tested as much at Barcelona as he is at Man City. For me, the one that stands out is Moussa Sissoko. I think £30 million. I thought that was a lot for him in the first place. Anyway, he's just too inconsistent. He obviously had that sensational performance in the Euro 2016 final, I think it was. That must have boosted his price up about £10 million, because then Newcastle just cashed in on him, and he's been so inconsistent. He always was an inconsistent player. He just had that one good game on the big stage and people saw what he can do. Tottenham took the gamble. It really isn't a gamble that's paid off. He's barely played this season, never in the starting lineup. A lot of players above him in the pecking order. He didn't get a single goal. I think he only got 2 assists in 25 appearances, so not a good season for him. And you look at another Tottenham player there, Vincent Janssen. Difficult for him. He's still young. He came from the Dutch league, and that's notorious for having either hit or miss players. You can score a lot of goals in the Dutch league and just flop in the Premier League. Afonso Alves, probably the most famous one for the Premier League, scored so many goals. But then you can get people like Luis Suarez coming over from the Dutch league and performing fantastically. Van Nistelrooy, exactly. Yeah. So Vincent Janssen so far looks like one of the flops, unfortunately, for Tottenham. But it's tough for him. He's always going to be playing second fiddle to Harry Kane there. He's only really ever going to get substitute appearances in the Premier League unless Kane's injured. And even when Kane was injured, they stuck Son up front because he was better than him. But Janssen, I think he deserves his place. Anyone else on that list? You've got Lucas Perez for Arsenal, Simone Zaza.
Yeah, Perez is an interesting one. Saw a lot of him at Deportivo the season before, and he was very impressive. And I think he did okay for Arsenal. Never really got many starts, did he? I mean, his Premier League record, 11 games, 1 goal is not great, but he did get 8 in all competitions. He got that hat-trick in the Champions League, didn't he? And there were stages where you thought they might need someone like him. He's a clever footballer, he can play off both sides, can play through the middle. He's an interesting one. Zaza as well is a funny one as well, isn't he? He's at Valencia now. He went on loan to West Ham, 8 games, just was quite hopeless, wasn't he, there? Never really sort of did anything to suggest that he would be a great player in there. And you've got Borja in there. He scored a lot of goals for Eibar last season, we got 19 goals for him last season. Swansea only 1 goal this season. Llorente's taken on the main man there. And interesting, there's some other players in there that certainly struggled this season.
Oh yeah, Borja arrived as I think he was Swansea's record signing as well, so he's been another big flop. And Zaza, he was in the Italian Euro 2016 squad recently as well, so big reputation. Ross McCormack is another one who was tipped for a big move a few seasons ago. I think he became the most expensive Championship player of all time when he went to Fulham, but then since he's gone to Villa, fell out with Steve Bruce, obviously a bit of a farcical situation there, loaned out to Nottingham Forest, then couldn't even get in the Nottingham Forest team when they were battling against relegation. So his star has faded quite rapidly, Ross McCormack, and he's another one, the only one not in the top flight to make the list, but certainly a contender, I think. So should we see the top three out?
Okay, so in third position we have Sissoko with 11% of the votes. Second place is Zaza, 14% of the votes, but the runaway winner with 46% is Claudio Bravo. Probably not too surprising.
Not too surprising, because I think he's been the most high-profile sort of failure there's been, because there was such a big deal made about Joe Hart leaving, and was it the right decision? And then Bravo comes in, and the stuff he's meant to be good at, the playing from out the back, he made quite a few mistakes with that. I've got to say, I don't think that's all down to Bravo. I think it's down to Guardiola's style of play and not having the players he would want to have in place to play that style of play. I think in a better team, as he showed at Barcelona, he is a very good goalkeeper. He's had a difficult season. I think it's harsh that he wins by that much when you got the likes of Sissoko in there. But what do you think of that top three?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think pointing on Sissoko as well. I remember on transfer deadline day there was that big rush. Everton were going to sign him, weren't they? And Tottenham managed to poach him and get him down there, and he's just never really taken off there. Zaza second. I think it was just because of how bad he was in some games. That was a short spell at West Ham, but he was fairly, really, really bad for stages of that. Bravo up there. Further down the list, Musa, 7%. That's quite fourth place. He's in. I think because he had a lot of potential coming in. Arbeloa down there, Janssen, Perez, McCormack down at the bottom. But top three, I suppose. I personally would have gone Bravo. Yeah, purely because, like you mentioned, he couldn't even get in the team over Caballero in the end, and Caballero was a number 2, wasn't he? That contract this summer, he might leave. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Bravo. But Bravo's taken it.
Yep, Claudio Bravo is your worst signing of the season.